Welcome to New Awakenings with Edgar Cayce's A.R.E. Where together through some incredible conversations, we go on beautiful journeys of discovery that could shape the way you think about things and might even change your life.
Our guest today is back for more. Yes, she is with us again. She's the director of the Historic Preservation for the Edgar Cayce Foundation and the A.R.E. Library. And she's also an archivist, a writer, and a public historian with experience in museums, cultural heritage sites, and of course, archives.
And here at the A.R.E., she makes the historical foundations of the Cayce work accessible to everyone, and she brings its many stories to life. She is a treasure trove of information and a good friend of New Awakenings, and we are so excited to welcome you back, Jessica Newell.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Well, it's a pleasure to see you again. I think today we're going to really lay down, we're going to go dive deep into the foundations of the A.R.E., right? We're going to talk history, we're going to nerd out on all the facts and all the stuff that everyone wants to know about. For those that might be hiding under a rock for all these years, let's just start from the very beginning. When was the A.R.E. established?
So the A.R.E. Became what it is that we know today back in 1931. So if you can picture, we're in Virginia Beach on June 1931. So the Cayce Hospital here has closed down. Atlantic University is closed as well. And so Edgar Cayce is really at a crossroads right now. So all of the projects he's been planning for years that came to fruition, the hospital, the university, all that is gone now. And so he has to decide what he wants to do. Does he want to keep on going with this psychic work or not? And so his stenographer, Gladys Davis, started a letter writing campaign. And she wrote letters to everyone that had supported Edgar and his work in the past. And so around 80 people or so showed up to the Cayce house in June of 1931, all met together to decide how were they going to still support Edgar in his work of helping people with his psychic readings. And so you picture their small two-story home down by the ocean front, completely packed with people. People were in the porch, they were out in the front lawn. They were all came together, this huge group of people who really believed that Edgar should continue his work and that they would be able to help him succeed in that. So the result of that meeting is that the Association for Research and Enlightenment was chartered officially by the state of Virginia in July of 1931.
Wow, so we really have Gladys to thank for this, it sounds like. If she started this letter writing campaign, that's so cool. Right. See, I love that because these are the stories that you don't necessarily hear. So he came to this crossroads and all these people gather and they're all kind of having these meetings and ideas and trying to figure out how to move forward. So when he did finally make that, or take that step or decide to move forward, what was his mission? Or what was the mission of the A.R.E.?
The mission was really to support Edgar Cayce to be able to give these readings and also to share this information with the world. And so you picture inside the home, it's both the Cayce's family home, but it's also the office of the A.R.E. You have Gladys Davis, you have other office staff, you have people coming in all the time from all across the country, and they're all working together to try to share this information on physical, mental, and spiritual health. So you have offices, you have file cabinets full of the readings, you have all this chaotic work going on that they're trying to organize. And so in 1940, an addition was built right onto the back of the house, and that became the library and office. We had a formal dedication ceremony in September of 1940. And so you can picture it's a room with 2 rows of huge filing cabinets, those thousands and thousands of readings. And so the goal is really, how do we extract all of that useful information and make it accessible? So we're talking about writing up articles, lists of extracts of quotes from the readings on particular topics, copying them using mimeograph machines, what would have been used at the time, and really starting this nationwide publication program. And so that is happening through the early 1940s. Cayce, Edgar Cayce's eldest son, is really heading up that effort. It's Hewin and his college friend Thomas Sugrue, who's now working as a journalist at this point. They're trying to build up this publication program, and that is going to get a little bit more complicated as America enters the Second World War, and Hewin is called into the Army and he goes overseas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, that's where I was going to head to next, because the war is just this little thing that happened, right? That got in the way of everyone's plans at that point in time, but it caused a shift, right, in the way that the A.R.E. moved forward. Talk to us about that.
Right. So Edgar Cayce's two sons, Hewin and Edgar Evans, they both are inducted into the Army. So a lot of the office staff as well go into the services too. So around 1942 is when the first biography of Edgar Cayce is published. The Thomas Sugrue, Hewin's college friend that we mentioned a little earlier, he is the author of that book, and that creates this nationwide attention onto the Cayce work. So if you can imagine, there are sacks of letters coming from the post office to the house of people wanting to receive readings. People are showing up at the house all the time. And so you have this very overwhelming, chaotic amount of work, which is hard on Edgar Cayce because he's really wanting to help everyone that he possibly can, but he gets to the point that the demand is just too great. So they are hiring more folks to help out in the office. A lot of the wives of servicemen who are coming into this area in Hampton Roads, which is the home of several military bases. And so you have this great amount of attention on the work, but also it's really complicating things. Hewin Cayce, he's over in Europe, but at the same time, he's not taking a break from the administration of the work either. So he's writing letters from camp to Virginia Beach outlining how are we going to organize the office staff? How are we going to do the publication program? What is this going to look like moving forward? So the work of the association, although the war is going on, it's as busy as ever. They're still having conferences and gatherings, even as the war goes on, gas rationing. You still have people showing up at Virginia Beach and really pitching in and making sure that this association is still running.
Wow, do you think it was because of the war? Like, do you think people were just needing these readings or needing something beyond what they could readily have, going to church or having their community groups? Because this was very different at the time. Like, do you think the war and the hardship and, I guess, anxiety of that helped or caused more people to come to the A.R.E.?
Yeah, I definitely think that is a factor. I mean, uncertainty is hard to handle, and especially in such a dramatic situation as the world being at war. Right, so I definitely think that was contributing to people's interest in getting readings and learning about the association's work. For sure.
Now, Jessica, you look marvelous for having all this knowledge. There's no way that you lived through all this stuff, right? So
Castor oil.
So what kind of historical documents is there in existence that tell this story, that keeps this story alive?
Yeah, so we have a wide variety of documentation that kind of tells the story. So we're talking about letters. So in the readings collection, it's not only the readings. We have letters to and from Edgar Cayce and the reading recipient. Also, all of the office staff and the Cayce family. So Gladys Davis, as she's acting as stenographer, she's also acting as record keeper. So we have thousands of letters from all these people that really gives you a play-by-play of what is happening. We also have all of the publications from 1931 to the present. So you can read the A.R.E. Bulletin, for example, from 1940. You can see the activities that are going on, who's guest writers, what are people interested at the time. We have brochures and booklets from the major conferences that were happening. So for example, we have our A.R.E. member Congress every June. That was going on even in the midst of the war. And during these particular congresses, Edgar Cayce was giving readings on what they call the world affairs. So people were asking him questions about what was going to happen in the war, what was going to happen in the United States economically and politically. So all those readings were being recorded and put in those publications that members were receiving throughout the years. So we have just a wonderful, wonderful variety of documentation that's really easy to tell the story.
And then, being the archivist that you are, I'm sure you kind of put all these things together, cobble up the story, and then are sharing it with us. So thank you for doing that. That's an awful lot of work, I'm sure.
That is an awful lot of work, gosh. And you know, we're talking about the war and all this chaos and anxiety and everything, and the mission, and all of a sudden there's this influx of people. So between then and now, has the mission of the A.R.E. changed? Or is it still the same? What is the focus now?
Yeah. So the mission has been very steadfast. So Hugh Cayce came back from Europe in early 1946. So his goal was to make the work available to the whole world. So how were they going to do that? To go from the small office in Virginia Beach. Part of the work was to index all of the reading. So you have over 14,000 individuals who had received readings, all in these files and file cabinets. So years later, in 1948, the Edgar Cayce Foundation was started to preserve the readings and to make them available. So at the time, we're talking late 1940s, before online databases, how were they going to do that? So they were typing extracts by topic to send out across the country. And they're also raising funds to microfilm everything. So
Wow.
the goal was eventually, have these centers in different regions of the country. You could go to that office. They'd have a microfilms copy. So you could go, say you're living in California, you could go to your local office there and be able to view the readings.
Wow.
So that whole system never came to fruition, but we basically have created that system with the online technology that we do have. We fulfilled that part of the dream.
Right.
That's amazing. So it went from Virginia, then it became a national thing, and now it's global.
International, yeah.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
It's nice to have that depository in one place. So anyone across the globe, across the world, can go in and do their own research and find these great readings out. That's amazing. Now we touched on a book, There Is a River, that really helped get the A.R.E. message out en masse, for lack of a better term. Can you explain to us, those of us that don't know what that book was about, how did that tie in with Edgar Cayce and his mission?
Yeah, so There's a River, the first biography of Edgar Cayce, published in 1942. It was written by Thomas Sugrue. He had met Hugh Cayce in college at Washington and Lee University. Originally, he didn't really understand Edgar Cayce's work. He wasn't a fan at all, but he and Hewlin would have lots of arguments over the nature of spirituality and supernatural happenings, all that. Mm-hmm. But the more they spent time with each other, they became really, really close friends. Tom became a strong supporter of the work, came down to Virginia Beach, visited with the family very often. in the mid-1930s, after Tom started his career as a journalist, he really was interested in writing some sort of biography of Edgar Cayce. He wasn't sure whether it would be a series of articles or full-length work, but he decided he was going to interview Edgar Cayce, all the members of his close family, everyone working at the A.R.E. at the time. And so in the archive, we have all of his notes from that. He was compiling all the information that would be used to write the biography. So we have maps of the area around Hawkinsville, Kentucky, where Edgar's family was from. So Tom was trying to figure out what is the landscape, trying to really paint a very vibrant picture of Edgar Cayce's life and how his psychic work had progressed over time. And so he had a draft done by the early 1940s, sold it to Henry Holt and Company publishers, and that was published in 1942. There was a small print run, about 500 copies for the first edition. They were special hardback. Edgar Cayce signed every one of them.
Wow.
Numbered, and we have a few of these examples that have come back to the archive through the years. And so the publication of that book, coupled with the reviews nationally of it, the press coverage, there was another article written by Marguerite Rowe in the Coronet magazine around the same time. She had received readings from Edgar Cayce, and her son and daughter-in-law also worked for the organization as well. So those two major publications really jump-started this intense interest in the work.
Gotcha.
Wow. So the book, Gladys, he had some good support there.
And now Jessica.
And now Jessica. So you have all of this incredible access to, I've been in the vault. I know there's amazing stuff in there. Has there been anything that you've found that was either surprised you or just made you think, oh, he was a regular guy, like just something that really has kind of got your interest?
Yeah, I really like the publications which are called the diary letters. So these are something that Gladys Davis started writing in the 1940s to really allow the members to truly understand what was happening at headquarters. So they're very informal. Sometimes they're an hour by hour recounting of what was going on. And you can really tell from her writing just how dedicated she was, how much this really impacted her life. And it's got wonderful details, just the everyday small things that were happening. From getting these A.R.E. bulletins out and the really tough time they had getting paper and ink and all of the logistics for trying to get this, to the House Committee. They had a group of members that were trying to get new curtains or other stuff like that. So these, small details that really bring everyone to life is what I find so interesting.
Yeah, I love that too. I studied anthropology in school, and as much as I love history and the events and the dates, I like the cultural aspect of it. Like, what were people like? What was their lives like? And I feel like with these diaries, you're getting a glimpse into just the everyday, slice of life happenings of what was going on here at the A.R.E. and with the people. That's just, I love that. That's so cool.
And then when you see throughout the years how it started, how the mission was founded and has continued on past the war and all that kind of stuff, fast forward now to present day, how much has it changed from back then to now?
Yeah, well, we really, kept those core aspects of the work. So we're interested in helping people, their physical health, mental wellness, and spiritual development. And so we're thinking back in the late 1940s, Hugh Lynn is writing his full plan for the outline of the organization. And he's talking about research and enlightenment. So looking into the readings, seeing what they could validate in other people's personal experiences, and then sharing with the world. So we've come a long way from the mimeographed pamphlets on recycled paper. So we are sharing this information, helping people through our educational programs, through our publications, our really robust digital presence, and here at Virginia Beach with the library as well, which was a constant throughout the whole history of the A.R.E. It's open to the public today, and that's where people can go to both research the reading, but also this wonderful circulating collection of books that are based on the topic in the Cayce readings, but are on holistic health, every wisdom tradition in the world. We're really this wonderful place that people can come either in person or virtually and have support on their health or their spiritual journeys.
That's wonderful. So, we understand how you can benefit today from the teachings of Cayce and from the remedies and all of that, but why, as someone who works in the archives and in the history, why do you think it's so important to have that history so accessible to people?
Yeah, having this material, this historical documentation of the work, it is a wonderful way to humanize this story, to really understand the thousands of people who were impacted by the work, who benefited from it. For example, the World Affairs readings that we mentioned that were happening in the 1930s and 1940s. We have a study group that has been meeting for 2 years that are studying these readings. And so what I enjoy very much about history is that history doesn't repeat itself, but a lot of times it rhymes. And you can learn a lot from what the people of the past went through, how you can kind of glean that wisdom, what they learned in their experiences. And so that really is a great way to understand our world today and what are the ways that we can respond to things that happen. So, it's not just it's fascinating if you're history inclined, but really being able to access the wisdom of those who've gone before us is just essential.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that the wonderful part of all this is that it's accessible to a global audience, but it's a fair price to go from Australia to Virginia Beach, for example. So if someone out there did want to access these documents and things like that, how can someone do that? What's the best way for them to do that?
So right now, we have an online database of the readings, and that is both the readings themselves and the correspondence and the background notes that Gladys Davis wrote that give you, a full context of what was going on during each reading. We also have an ebook and audiobook library through the A.R.E. library, and we've had this for a few years now, but we're always adding new material. And it is a great way to be able to access the wealth of resources we have here, and very important to us that we're reaching as many people as we can over the world.
Yeah, that's certainly helpful. And so you mentioned study groups. Are there other events here at the A.R.E. or perhaps virtually where people can actually get to know more about who Edgar Cayce was and this wonderful history that you've been sharing with us?
Yes, so we have a number of groups, both here in Virginia Beach and around the world, but also online. So I would definitely recommend for those who are interested, we have a Search for God study groups. That's more of the spiritual growth aspect of the work. The World Affairs group still meets weekly on Zoom. And we also have a work readings group. So that group studies the readings that were given on how Edgar Cayce should conduct these readings, sharing them, how the organization should be run. So it's a really fascinating record of the whole development of the A.R.E. from the very beginning.
Right. Jessica, thank you so much for taking us on this road of memories. The history of this amazing organization is one that really needs to be celebrated, and not a lot of people are have the in-depth knowledge that you do in all this. So we appreciate you coming and sharing of your knowledge and your wisdom with us, because this has been an eye-opening experience for me.
It really has, yeah.
If someone wanted to reach out to you and get to learn more, what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
The best way would be through email. If you email me at ecf@edgarcayce.org.
Good enough. All right.
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much for being with us on the show.
All right, thank you so much.
And that does it for this episode of New Awakenings with Edgar Cayce's A.R.E. We hope that you've enjoyed it as much as we have. If you missed any part of this conversation or any of our others, you can always find all of them at edgarcayce.org/resources. They're all laid out there, easy for you to find. We'd love for you to take a deep dive and learn all about Edgar Cayce, the A.R.E., and all the modalities associated with it. So until next time, I'm Will.
And I'm Karen.
And this has been New Awakenings with Edgar Cayce's A.R.E. Thanks for joining us.